which Thompson twin is in the better situation? Now, let me just start this off real quick and say I think both of them were drafted to great situations that are going to help them be in a role that's going to help them develop and grow as basketball players. Like Houston, they needed a playmaker. They needed someone to run the offense. They got someone like that in Amen. And then for Ausar, he's going to be able to play pretty much pressure-free, I feel like, because they're not going to ask him to carry the offense. They're going to ask him to play defense and find a role within the offense. But what situation do you think is better for the Thompson twins?
I think they're both in unique situations, and I think what's really cool about the Pistons and the Rockets is they both hired high-caliber coaches.
Yeah.
Now, Houston, I don't know. Reading all the free agency targets that they could go after, like Brook Lopez, Fred VanVleet, James Harden, Dylan Brooks. Ausar and Amen might be in a similar situation where they're both coming off the bench. Situation, I don't really think one's better than the other, but for the sake of this topic, I'm going to say that Ausar is in a better position, situation, whatever you want to call it, because you have an all-star potential backcourt in Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, and you have a starting caliber center that Monty Williams believes that could be a top 10 player in the NBA, and Jalen Duren. So I'm going to go with Ausar just for the sake of this topic. But what about you?
I do think it's Ausar just because the big thing is there's less pressure on him. Like, he doesn't have to go and be the guy right away. I don't think he ever will be with Cade and Jaden Ivey in the mix, but like I was comparing him earlier to, like everybody has Andre Iguodala and then Andrew Wiggins. And in those roles that they played, they were allowed to excel without being the guys. And I think that's what you're going to get with Ausar in Detroit. But with the men, I just think there's more pressure to, be the guy right away because they were looking for someone to run the show. I know that they had Kevin Porter Jr. playing the point guard position. I don't really believe he's a point guard. I think he would be better with someone setting him up, and you're getting someone like that with the men. But that's why I think and I think the other part too is, as I'm looking at the Houston Rockets roster, both teams are very young, but Houston doesn't really have anybody on their team that has really won anything. I'm not saying the Pistons do either, but they have different types of veterans, like an Alec Burke, like a Bojan, that have been in the league for a long time, that have had, obstacles, had their highs, had their lows. Those are good veterans to lean on and to learn from, and then you got someone like Monty Williams. I mean, Houston has Ime Udoka, who is also a player, so they both have that going for them. But you also just have a little bit more patience in Detroit because, you have a few more veterans that you can lean on. And I don't think they have that so much in Houston. So there's going to be more pressure, and that's why I would say that's why the situation is better for Ausar than it is for Amen.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a hard, for me to lean towards one twin. But I think this being a Pistons podcast, I'd probably get pitchforks if I said Amen. Yeah. But I do believe Ausar is in a better situation because Cade, Ivey, and Duren. Yeah. I feel like those are foundation pieces, and I feel like he could be a foundation piece as well. I mean, you're starting to we talk about this rebuilding, you're starting to see the pieces to the puzzle start to connect after each draft, and Ausar is just another piece of that puzzle to eventually, complete it.
Yeah, that was another point I was going to touch on. It feels like Detroit has a little bit more direction. It seems like the pieces, like you were just saying, the pieces are fitting together. And I think with Houston, there's a lot more question marks still that are there because they have a lot of great athletes. They're probably the most athletic team in the NBA with Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore, Kenyon Martin Jr. It's just, they got a fun squad. They're going to be fun to watch, a team that I will be paying attention to next season. I just think when you look at both rosters, you see more of a direction for the Detroit Pistons. And in Houston, they got some great pieces. They do, but there's less of a direction, I think, of looking at it as a fan. Maybe the GM, maybe the coaches, they see it. But as a fan of basketball, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know how it all works. I don't know how it all will work. But with Detroit, I think there's just a clearer picture.